on more than one occasion remarked in different fora that my army, Indian Army, is getting politicized at a very rapid rate. Here is my explanation for what I say and why I say that. There are several examples, but I'll stick to only one. The way Indian Army has moved to introduce Bhagwatgita and Arthashastra in its training curriculum. Since I am not presenting legal or technical evidence, please go by my intent rather than by my mistakes. During the Combined Commanders Conference held between the 4th and the 6th of March 2021, Prime Minister Modi set the ball rolling with his address. It was reported that the Prime Minister stressed the importance of enhancing indigenization in national security systems, not just in sourcing equipment and weapons, but also in the doctrines, procedures, and customs practiced in the armed forces. And as a result, the Integrated Headquarter Ministry of Defence tasked the College of Defence Management, known as the CDM, Secunderabad, to study what? The virtues of ancient culture and war techniques in its incorporation in the strategic thinking and training in present days. That ball stopped rolling with the announcement that the CDM study group has concluded that lessons from Bhagavad Gita and Arthashastra be incorporated in the training of the Indian Army. The journey from the PM's address to this announcement is a tale worthy of study. Hereby hangs a tale. All the PM had asked for, overtly at least, was indigenization, which typically means we create something specific for our needs using internal talent and material. It does not mean necessarily going back 1,000 years in history. Anything Indian would do, but the Ministry of Defence interpreted the term indigenization to mean virtues of ancient Indian culture and war techniques. Strike one. There are two parts to this: ancient Indian culture of war and war techniques. Now it is well established that Indian culture of war has been, for the most part, quite poor. Indians remained under rule of others for some 900 odd years, mainly because they had a poor understanding of war. While the invaders used modern techniques of fighting, we relied on age-old ones, hence we steadily lost. Should we be perpetuating that? Once the invaders settled down in India, like the Mughals did, they too lost their military prowess and lost out to the incoming Europeans. Our appetite for resistance and to fight back was so poor that we remained under the rule of a mere trading company, the East India Company, for close to 100 odd years. It must be shocking to most people outside India, particularly neighboring Afghanistan. So, it was incredible thinking to go back to the Indian military culture. The next topic under discussion is war techniques. Now, war and fighting techniques emerge mainly from capabilities of weapons and the terrain. When you are faced with modern tanks of Pakistan and China in the run of Kutch or the Ladakh plateau, you need to adopt fighting techniques different from the times of Bhagavad Gita. That is, when the Pandavas used, or when they faced the elephants of the Kauravas in the Kurukshetra plains of northern India. There is just no basis of drawing lessons from that to this. In present times alone, India uses different types of tanks in different terrains. heavier ones for the deserts and lighter ones for Ladakh. One size does not fit all. And as for technology, we must rely on the best. It would be wrong to go back to horsed cavalry and a squadron of the Pushpak Viman aircrafts to replace a squadron of T-90 tanks and the Rafale jet fighter, just because they were intensely Indian systems. To translate indigenization into virtues of ancient Indian culture in war techniques was highly unprofessional. Now, next we come to how the CDM came to the conclusion that the place to find these virtues and war fighting techniques was Bhagwatgita and the Arthashastra. Bhagwatgita is a mythical account of dialogues between Lord Krishna and his disciple Arjuna. It's a lot of things, but certainly not a treatise on war, like The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Mostly it's about how man can find the Lord. It will serve seekers of salvation well, but not those looking for efficient ways to win wars. Yes, it does tell us to not fear death. But such values are already part of the traditions of the Indian Army. The Rajputana Rifles Regiment already has for a very long time the motto of Veer Bhogya Vasundhara. The brave will enjoy the pleasures of this world. Right? While the Gurkhas, my group, my regiment, lives by the creed of Kair or Kafir Hono Bhanda Marano Ramro. Better to die than be a coward. And the Army War College where I last served already has the motto Yudhaya Krit Nishchaya, having decided to go to war. As for Arthashastra, it explores issues of social welfare, the collective ethics that hold a society together. Now, such products are indeed welcome in the India of today. However, the team of the CDM is not ideally suited to advise the government on that. If that is what the government had wanted, they should have tasked the Indian Institute of Management, not the CDM. So now we come to another important point, common to Bhagavad Gita and the Arthashastra. An evidence-based approach calls for us to study specific events, analyze them, and find the common thread running through the successful ones. The crux is that the events are to be treated as mere case studies. The analysis and decision making has to be ours. However, neither the Bhagavad Gita nor the Arthashastra is a collection of any case studies. Remember, we are talking of Bhagavad Gita and not the Mahabharata. Both chosen documents are just cut and dried advice without the benefit of accompanying case studies that generated that advice. The whole situation is akin to your optometrist who, rather than check out your eyes, hands over his set of glasses to you and says, use these, they worked very well for me or my great-great-great-grandmother. And if CDM was to look only at past histories, how did it settle for the Bhagavad Gita and the Arthashastra? Why not the victorious campaigns of Maharaja Ranjit Singh or the great Maratha king Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, master of guerrilla warfare? Were they not Indians? How about studying the tactics used by Babur in the first battle of Panipat, when he trounced Ibrahim Lodi? As per Wikipedia, Babur reached Panipat on the 20th of April 1526 and there met Ibrahim Lodi, numerically superior army of 100,000 soldiers and 100 elephants. In the battle that began on the following day, Babur used a particular tactics called tulugma, that is, encircling Ibrahim Lodi's army and forcing it to face artillery fire directly, as well as frightening the war elephants. Was it because Babur was not a Hindu? Are only Hindus Indian? And that too, the more ancient the better? As I see it, any invader who made India its home became an Indian. The only foreigners who ruled India were the Brits, because they worked on behalf of a power outside India. Babur and his next few generations lived, married and died in this India without sending back a single rupee or a dinar back to where they originally came from. What else is an Indian? Strike two. Also, here lies the root of the problem. The present government relies clearly on the ancient pride of the Hindus. The more ancient, the better. And if we can talk of events around UP, so much the better. The army caught on to this and supplied what the politician wanted, but did not ask for overtly. Why the CVM did what they did is known only to them. So I asked them their side of the story through a right to information RTI application. They refused in national interest. I raised the level to the appellate authority, but was stonewalled there too. Hence, I am forced to read their mind, which is not the best way of doing it. But politicization or the desire to please the politician is bad in all institutions. But when it happens in the army, it can be disastrous. Building railway bridges in Mumbai and playing band for the Corona warriors are harmless games. The army must be allowed to play. But the army also holds guns and missiles, of which even accidental use can be disastrous. The recent incident of one of our BrahMos missiles taking off towards Pakistan nearly led to a retaliatory Pakistan strike. The armed forces acting out of the sanctioned role, if to please the politician, can be very harmful. In any case, such a tendency weakens the very rationale to arm them at public expense and allow them to kill. All that must be strictly for public good, not for the good of any politician or politicians. If we actually want to create something indigenous for the security of India, let us put our best Indian minds together and develop a national security doctrine. A nuclear armed India, which has most of its land borders under dispute, still does not have one. Incredible. We need to act now to stop further politicization of the Indian armed forces. इश्क के पहले कदम में ही समझ जाए तो अच्छा है, पांव फिसला तो फिसलता ही चला जाता है. It is best to balance oneself during the initial stages itself, because once you slip, you just keep slipping. Thank you.